I haven't written proper meeting notes in months, but my follow-up game has been on point. I created an AI chief of staff that runs my corporate job. And if your job has anything to do with doing follow-ups, tracking action items, keeping up with different teams and what they have going on, I know you feel my pain. So I started this because I am a program manager and I'm managing multiple projects all under a single program. And I have multiple teams that I'm dealing with, and we have 1 million meetings a day. And so what's required of most of us at the end of our day, because we've been in meetings all day, and then you need to go back through all of your meeting notes, and hopefully you have some AI documenting your notes for you. But you have to go back through your notes and you have to make sense of everything that happened. Now, AI is great because it gives you the action items and who said what and everything. But for my particular job, I need to actually track the action items and make sure they get done. Most people can just leave the meeting, take their own action items and run off and go. But for me, I need to track my own action items and I need to track other people's action items. And I want to do it all without having to ever go back manually through each of those meeting notes and transcripts that I got. So this is for overwhelmed knowledge workers who are drowning in meetings. I'm talking product managers, project managers, consultants, sales leaders, lawyers, anybody who's drowning in meetings. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to build this using Claude and to plug it into your own meetings, saving yourself a bunch of time and a bunch of frustration. So let's jump right on in, and I'm going to show you exactly how I set this system up to work and all the components that you need. So first, you need your meeting transcript. And so you have a couple of options with that. You can use Otter, you can use Notion, you can use your Teams transcripts, Zoom transcripts, anything that has everything that exactly happened in the meeting. And you need a way to get that to your agent. I mentioned I'm building this with Claude, so you need a way to get that into Claude. And then you work with Claude to capture what you need. For me, I needed action items, owners, deadlines, risks, stuff like that. But you can always change that to whatever you're looking for out of the meeting. And the final step is to create a daily brief. So basically, I sit in meetings all day. I make sure I get all of my transcripts, and then I let the agent run and do its thing. And every day I get a daily brief that tells me exactly what has gone on today. And then it helps me prioritize and understand which actions do I need to take immediately. So I'm no longer fishing through 25 action items that happened today, plus the other 25 that happened yesterday. My agent is keeping track of it, and the daily brief is what's keeping me on track and getting them completed. So here's my actual stack to do that. I'm using Plaud, which is a recording device, very similar to Otter or Notion, which are basically digital recording devices, but Plaud is an actual physical device. And I actually show it to you. It's just a little recording thing. It's actually pretty cool. You can actually just put it on the back of your phone. And I love it because I'm sitting in meetings and nobody even knows that I'm recording. So that's my recording device, but use whatever you have. I have one automation with Zapier that takes my Plaud transcript and gets it into Airtable for me. Once it is in Airtable, my Claude agent is consistently monitoring that, looking for new meetings that have been added. Once it sees that a new meeting has been added, it takes off and runs its whole workflow, does everything, finds all the action items, captures everything that Jerry needs to know about. And that's the other thing I love, because when you're sitting in meetings and you get these long transcripts and these long meeting summaries, you still have to fish through what was for other people. So my agent is only concerned with what Jerry needs to know. And then I get my personalized email every day. I'll show a couple of the steps here so you can see how they look. And it's all very simple to set up. Once I have a meeting saved in my Plaud device, Zapier is monitoring my Plaud device. So once my Plaud device says, hey, there's a new meeting, Zapier takes it and it drops it in Airtable. And one of the other reasons I put it all in Airtable, I'll pull that up and show it to you in a second. But Airtable is a great way to stay organized because it's in a table form, and then you can do all sorts of filtering and you can do all kinds of crazy things once you have all of your meeting information, all of your action items, everything that's important to you, you have it in table form to manipulate. So here is the basic Airtable setup, and you can see I've called it my chief of staff, and I have various tables here. The table that Zapier is inputting into is right here, and you can see it has the meeting name, it has when it happened, the summary, everything that happened, and then you can see the status here, whether my agent has processed it or done anything with it. So that helps me understand what's going on. Now, what I want to say about this is that I did not create this Airtable on my own. And let's just go back all the way back to the beginning, because I have this great system working, but where it started is me telling Claude exactly what my problem was. It's what I mentioned earlier. I'm in a ton of meetings. I can't keep up with action items. I can't afford for things to be delayed. I don't have a lot of time to fish for, what did we talk about yesterday? Because I have to move on to today's meetings and I have to actually get my action items done. So I dropped that problem in Claude's lab. And I said, help me design a system. These are the things that I have at my disposal. I have a Plaud device. I have Airtable. I have Zapier. I have all these things. Now, that step is optional, because if you don't have any tech stack, Claude can tell you exactly what to do. But I kind of already had a lot of things that I use. So I said, this is what I use. Help me build it. And so not only did Claude say, here's how we're going to build it, but it also gave me tables that it could just click here, new table. Oh, no, I actually did CSV file, and I imported the file that Claude created for me. So I didn't even create these tables from scratch. They came ready-made. So here's my table. This is how this all looks. And then once the meeting is here, then my agent takes over and does its thing. And so you can see it took all these different meetings and it gave action items, and it's like, who is it for? Is it done? When is it due? It has everything I need. So once everything is in my Airtable for me to manipulate, my agent can go and do all sorts of things on my behalf. Now we have our basic level of understanding. Let's look at how it's set up, and then let's watch it run live. I mentioned that I was using Zapier to get my transcripts out, but keep in mind, Zapier is very flexible. You can use all sorts of plugins and it can connect with anything that you're using, basically. So I have my Plaud here going to Airtable. This can be Otter. This can be a folder with, PDFs. However you need to get your transcripts, do whatever you need to do. But you do have to create a system. And I think that's something I have to explain when it comes to agents in general. They need a repeatable process. You cannot change the process or the agent will not know what to do. So here's my repeatable process for getting my transcripts. Once you have that repeatable process, you take that and let me show you I'm going to open up Claude so you can see the prompt. So here I am in Claude. I open up a new chat, and basically here's my problem, right? Just what I said. I need a chief of staff. Here's everything. Here's the tables that you helped me build. And then Claude is like, okay, great. I'll build it for you. And here's where Claude really shines, because you can take any idea and you don't have to know how to code. You don't know how to take your English and turn it into computer speak, but Claude does all of this for you. So you can see it has already figured out exactly what to do. Here are all the files. And so you take this and you plug it into, you open up a terminal, and I'll show you that too. But you open up a terminal. I'm using a Mac, and this whole thing is actually running on my Mac Mini, which is my personal at home data center for my agents. So everything is here running locally, and what you're looking at now is me remoting into my Mac Mini, which is sitting right here on my desk. However, once you get your instructions from Claude on what to do, Claude the app, then you open up a terminal, you have to install Claude Code if that's what you want to do. And so once I create a folder, And you can see my folder here is called Chief of Staff folder. You simply type in Claude and you paste in exactly what the Claude app told you. And then you can see Claude Code just take off. And it's just creating. And then it'll finally finish and it'll say, hey, I'm done. Go test me. And then Claude actually works you through the steps to make sure it's tested. That's how simple it is to get up and running with something when you want to create an agent. You basically tell Claude what you want to do, paste the code in the Claude Code is created, and then you run it. Now, I do want to interject a little bit that it is simple. It may not be easy because it depends on the setup. You will have some troubleshooting, right? You go run it the first time and something doesn't look right or something's not working right and you may get some errors. The best part of this whole thing is that you have a coding partner essentially with you. You simply paste the error that you got into Claude and it tells you what to do to fire it back off. So there is some troubleshooting step, but you're not in it alone. Okay, so now you see my one meeting has processed, and now my second meeting has processed. And so this second layer that I added here, it says staged. And my Claude agent is waiting for me to tell it what to do, because you have some meetings where you're just sitting in on them and you don't really need to track the action items unless they belong to you. But then you have meetings that you're leading and you need to track everybody's action items. So what I have here are options. The first one, I want to collect all of them. And for this second one, I just want mine, because I just sat in on that call. So you can see before we just had the summary, and now that it's processed, you have the decisions, the risks. And so now if I go to my action item table, I can find those two meetings. And let me just make this a little bit bigger so we can see. So we can see the two meetings from yesterday. And I have my action items here. So there's only one action item from one of the meetings and the other one had several. So now all I have to do is keep this updated with what I've done and what I haven't done. And so I'm always on top of my actions. Now, the final piece of the puzzle was to get my daily email. So let's bring that up so you can see what my chief of staff email looks like. And so you can see here are my 3 emails that's been running the last several days. Here's my chief of staff briefing that I get every day that tells me exactly what to do. Now you have a fully functioning system. All you have to do is show up to your meetings and be present. So now you've seen the workflow from beginning to end. Now, I mentioned earlier that a whole host of people and personas can use this, and just a few that AI could think of for me. Product manager, and this is some of the ways you can use it. You can look at block features. You're looking at risk and dependencies. Project manager, we just went through that. Consultants are looking at client actions, evidence tasks, follow-ups. If you're a startup founder, you may be interested in key decisions. And if you're a sales leader, this is great because you just go to your clients and have your calls. You don't worry about taking notes. You don't carry a notepad and a pen anymore. Get back to your office and everything is there telling you what are your client obligations? Are they going to renew? And what are the next deals to push? So take my system, Steal Shamelessly, tailor it to your role or wherever your specific needs are. A few things to remember to make this really powerful. Make sure you have the speaker names in the summary of who said what. That way, when you get your action items, you know, you have the exact names of who they go to, and then your system can start to learn who's on your team and how things work together. Because that's the other thing that Claude is doing in the background. Once it is basically sitting in on all of your meetings, you can create a dashboard where you can then go and ask questions like, what's going on with this project? Or what did we do last month? What decisions were made last month? So you're basically creating an executive chief of staff for yourself that knows everything. I also mentioned that you want to keep all your notes in a single place, and that's why I use Airtable, because it's helpful for me to see things in table format, but you can also use a Google Drive folder, or it's something locally on your PC, anything that allows you to have everything in one place and that your agent only has to go one place looking for things. And so we just covered how the system is set up, how you can tweak it to your role, and you saw it work from beginning to end. but there probably are some questions that you have, and there probably are a few steps that you're like, wait, how did she go from there to there? So what we do for every episode is we create an AI simple action plan, which contains some actions that you can take to actually implement this. So you can go from watching this demo to implementing in under an hour. And once you get that, we call it ASAP. Once you get that, you are also invited to our AI office hours, where we go deep and dive into everybody's questions and look at your particular system to get you up and running. On this channel, I show ambitious professionals how to use AI in their real careers, their lives, and their businesses so they can save time and build more leverage. And if you want to see more and you want to see what else I'm building, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.